As we commemorate the 500th anniversary of the arrival of Christianity in the Philippines, we are made to reflect on what has been, what we are now, and where do we want to go. The theme of this remembering is Gifted to Give. This is Father J-Boy on the line. Stay with me. Tinanong ka na ba kung saan ka magaling? Ano ang iyong talent? Ano ang maaari mong gawin na mahusay? At some point in our lives, we are asked by someone what we are good at. And not just from other people, but we have also asked that question ourselves. Madaling sagutin ito kung may angking galing ka na sa pagkanta, pagluluto, o kaya sa iba't ibang klase ng sports. Para naman sa iba, nakaka-stress itong tanong dahil hindi pa nila alam. Nakakalungkot nga lang ang laging sagot ng iba. Hindi daw sila magaling sa kahit anong bagay. Sa kasawing palad, ang ganitong pag-iisip ay nakakasira sa ating pagtingin sa ating sarili at hindi ito nakakatulong sa mabungang pamumuhay. At mas nakakalungkot ito sa mata ng Diyos na nagbibigay sa lahat ng tao ng angking galing. We just have to discover where we are good at. Kung tutusin, marami sa atin ang nagsasabi ukol sa ating mga galing ng ganito. May mga tao natural lang sa kanilang kahusayan, sa pagkanta, pagsasayaw at iba pa. Ngunit maraming pag-aaral ang nagsasabi na hindi ito totoo. The belief that we are good at something naturally is a myth. What really develops talent is practice. When Jesus said in the parable of talents, "For to everyone has, more will be given, but from the one who has not, even what he has will be taken away." He means that more talents will be added and developed if he practices, and whatever he has will be lost if he doesn't. Coaching experts and psychologists say that we need 10,000 hours of practice to master a skill. When was the last time you practiced that long? There are many ways in which we refer to God's gifts to us. Sometimes we call them talents, abilities, or competencies. But these terms do not necessarily point to the one who provides us with these gifts. If there is a gift, there is a giver. So how do we discover that we are gifted? That God, our giver, has embedded various gifts for us to use at the service of people. I will run them quickly here. Ask those who know you better. Ask your closest friends and family members what they think you do best and what you are good at. If you don't want to ask directly, look out for and think about compliments you usually receive relating to things you have done. Try a range of experiences. Choose which you have an interest. The field is broad. That's right. The best way to get to know yourself and learn about your talents is to invest in a range of different experiences. Try new activities you've never tried before, and even if you find that you're not as good at them as you hope you might be, you'll be discovering more about yourself in doing so. Explore memories. Think back to times when you practiced something and didn't even feel the time passing you by. The chances are, if the time flew by, then talent may have to do with this. When you're good at something, it's common to enjoy spending time on and getting involved with it. So, we are all gifted, and having discovered one's gifts, then we can ask, who is the giver? Of course, we answer, God. And if we are commemorating 500 years of Christianity in the Philippines, then we are also saying that God has given us the gift of faith. And I would say the gift of the Holy Spirit. This, I believe, is a special charism of the Filipino. A faith that is joyous, isang pananampalatayang may angking saya sa pinakaugat nito. Nakikita ito sa mga ngiti ng mga Pilipino, bagaman may dinadaanan ito sa hirap sa buhay. Nakikita natin ito sa ating pananaw sa buhay na hindi tayo basta-bastang nawawalan ng pag-asa. Nakikita natin ito sa ating mga pagtitiis para sa ating mga mahal sa buhay. Sa aking karanasan sa iba't ibang parokya dito sa Pilipinas o sa ibang bansa, kung may mga Pilipino, laging may handaan. Masaya ang mga tao magsimbang gabi man o magsemana santa. Kahit ano pa mang gawain sa simbahan, laging may kakaibang saya ang nananaig sa bawat makakasalumuha mo. Masaya ang nananalig sa Diyos. Ano nga uli itong charism o charisma na nasasaad sa salitang charismatic? Galing ito sa salitang charis, ang Griego sa gift. The Catechism of the Catholic Church says that charisms, spiritual gifts, are special abilities, a special empowerment given to a Christian by the Holy Spirit to enable them to be powerful channels of God's love and redeeming presence in the world. Whether extraordinary or ordinary, charisms are to be used in charity or service to build up the Catholic Church. In other words, charisms are gifts from the Holy Spirit. They may be extraordinary or ordinary, but they are to be used for the service to build up the church. A charism is always deeply connected with our faith and is an expression of our relationship with God. In this way, it differs from a natural or learned ability. A charism exercised correctly draws other people to God. Marcus Tullius Cicero said, "Non nobis solum nati sumus," or not for ourselves alone are we born. How do you discover a charism? There are 3 signs. First, when you use your charism, you experience an unmistakable inner experience of peace, energy, and joy. It energizes you. Second, the results are unusually effective and successful in view of what you are trying to accomplish. Finally, people directly or indirectly recognizes God's presence and the presence of your gift. In other words, the use of them comes easy and natural. There is a sense that we are fit into it. We find our place under the sun. We are truly ourselves. And at the same time, we feel that what we are doing far exceeds our natural abilities. John Bunyan said, "You have not lived today until you have done something for someone who can never repay you." When we use our gifts for the service of a specific community, for example, a parish or a school, then it is called a ministry. Here are some charisms that we see in many people in the church. Choose which among these charisms have been given to you. They empower us to become an effective channel of God's grace and goodness to others. If you serve others through your artistic and creative work that beautifies the church, the liturgy, a religious activity like arranging flowers for the Good Friday procession or celebration of Easter, it is called the charism of craftsmanship. If you write or perform music, such as those who serve God through singing and playing musical instruments at Mass, it is called the charism of music. For Christians with the charism of music, music is always a powerful expression of their faith and an important way to nurture their relationship with God. If you help out by recognizing logistical concerns and unmet needs that can prevent good things from happening, personally doing whatever it takes to solve the problem, it is called the charism of service. Those who are altar servers are specifically gifted with this charism because of their eagerness to move in and solve problems while worship is being performed. If you welcome and care for those in need of food, shelter, and friendship, as Jesus said, "Whoever welcomes the stranger welcomes me." This includes those who welcome people at the door of the church or usher them to the pews. People who are in this ministry have the charism of hospitality. People stay in the church not just because of preaching or worship or music, but because of the friendships built there. Many people are at home ministering to the sick and the bereaved. They have the ability to nurture others with their presence and words of comfort, encouragement, and counsel. They have the charism of encouragement and healing. If you are an effective sharer, preacher, and promoter of the faith in a way that does not repel others, but draws them to become disciples of Jesus and responsible members of the church, they have the charism of evangelism. Kapag nagbabahagi sila, mas naeengganyo ka makinig sa kanilang sinasabi ukol sa kanilang buhay, pananampalataya. If you are an effective channel of God's wisdom by accurately perceiving the works of good and bad spirits in people, places, things, and events, then you have the charism of the discernment of spirits. And if you are able to impart knowledge and wisdom to people, like many of our catechists, teachers, or those involved in informal education, then you have the charism of teaching. There are other gifts that the Holy Spirit has given us, and these are only a few. You might have many other charisms that I have not mentioned, but which you use for your ministry. Be at peace. The gift of the Holy Spirit is wide, vast, and various, even unique for each individual, and they are to be used and given to others. What do we look for in ministry? Are we aiming for success? Understandable, we work for success. We make great sacrifices to attain success. We even call them success indicators. Except that scriptures has little reference to the word success. But there is much about the image of the fruit and fruitfulness. Jesus said, "Unless a grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it remains just a grain of wheat. But if it dies, it produces much fruit." He also used the word fruitfulness in the allegory of the vine and the branches. He said, "Just as a branch cannot bear fruit on its own unless it remains on the vine, so neither can you unless you remain in me. Whoever remains in me and I in him will bear much fruit. By this is my Father's glorified, that you bear much fruit and become my disciples." And how do you know if what you are doing is from the Holy Spirit? From its fruits. Kapag sinabi rin nating success, walang puwang ang kabiguan o failure. Magkasalungat ang tagumpay at ang pagkabigo. When we think of success indicators, we think of the goals met, techniques used, even the connections we have established to make the activity a success. But the life in the Holy Spirit, the life of fruitfulness, includes failures. Helmut Schmidt said, "The biggest room in the world is the room for improvement." The life of a fruitful branch is due to the pruning of the Father. Jesus said in John 15:2, pruning means removing dead branches, meaning we are being pruned when we experience failure. St. Paul, when he failed in his preaching at the Areopagus in Athens led him to preach more emphatically about Christ. The disciples failed Jesus several times, remember? And as you can see with Peter, they became more loyal to Jesus. And of course, the crucifixion of Jesus is a failure in the eyes of the world, even of his two disciples on the way to Emmaus. But for Jesus, it was his way to glory, to fruitfulness. Ibig sabihin, hindi bongga ang gusto ng Diyos, kundi bunga. Hindi mabongga, kundi mabunga. How do we know that we are fruitful in our ministry? We become faithful to Jesus. How do we become faithful? First, search. Mary's first words in response to the angel Gabriel's announcement was a question. How can this be? Paano ba ito mangyayari? It was not a question of doubting God's words, but it was a clarification. Pakipaliwanag po sa akin dahil hindi ko po maintindihan kung paano po ito mangyayari sa akin. In other words, ask questions. Huwag matakot magtanong kung hindi naman natin naiintindihan ang turo ng simbahan o ng ating pananampalataya. The dogmatic constitution on the church admits that the church needs reform and renewal. That is why we have to ask many questions such as, ano ang kailangan baguhin? Ano ang sitwasyon natin ngayon? Ano ang makakatulong upang maramdaman ng tao ang pagmamahal ng Diyos sa kanila? Second, consent. Mary said yes in the midst of many personal questions. Some of these questions may not have definitive answers. Isa sa mga tanong ko na walang kasagutan hanggang ngayon po ay, bakit namatay ang tatay ko ng maaga? Sige nga, sagutin nyo nga. Ngunit kahit walang sagot na galing sa Diyos, kaya pa rin nating umoo. Even without answers to many of our questions, we can give our consent to God and our faith. We can have a firm faith kahit ang dami nating tanong ukol sa ating karumaldumal na sitwasyon, hindi ba? Kailan matatapos itong pandemya? Sige nga, kailangan ako mababakunahan. Bakit 9,838 cases na kada araw at kailan may gagawin ng gobyerno, di ba? Bakit grabe ang kasinungalingan ang pinapalaganap sa Facebook? Third, consistency. Are the things we believe, like the words we say in the creed, match the things that we do? Is there an agreement between our words, thoughts, and beliefs and our actions in our daily lives? Consistent ba tayo kung sinasabi natin na mahalaga ang buhay dahil bigay ito ng Diyos, di ba? Ngunit, okay lang sa atin ang maraming namamatay dahil sa EJK at iba pang human rights violations. 33,000 na po ang human rights cases na simulang niluklok natin ang gobyernong ito. Okay pa ba ito sa atin? Consistent ba tayo na naniniwala sa Diyos bilang katotohanan? Ngunit isa tayo sa nagpapalaganap ng fake news. Consistent ba tayo kung sinasabi natin mahalagang alagaan ang mahihirap? Ngunit ang sanhi ng kahirapan ang sinusuportahan nating gobyerno, hindi ba? Finally, constancy. It is not enough that we follow Jesus. He asks us to remain in Him, to stay with Jesus amidst all our difficulties, doubts, and fears, and tears. Kaya kasama dito ang magsalita sa mali dahil mali, maging loyal sa Diyos. Ngunit mapangkilatis kung magiging loyal pa ba tayo sa mga taong hindi maka-Diyos, hindi makatarungan, hindi makatao, hindi makakalikasan. Kailangan nating pag-isipan ito. Magtatapos po tayo sa isang pahayag ng Second Plenary Council of the Philippines in 1991. The Filipino Catholic do have a genuine faith. That faith was genuine and strong enough to create a distinctively Catholic culture in this part of the world. But deficient evangelization resulted in a Catholicism that has failed to be a leaven of transformation in Philippine society. Tunay na tunay ang ating pananampalataya. Tunay na tunay na ibinigay ng Diyos ito sa atin. We are gifted. At tunay na ginagamit naman natin ito sa paglilingkod sa kapwa. We use our gifts for the service of others. We actually give. Saan tayo nagkulang? At bakit hindi nababago ng ating pananampalataya ang ating buhay at ang buhay ng buong sambayan ng Kristiyano? Kulang pa ang bunga nito. Pagnilayan natin kung saan tayo nagkulang. Tanggapin ang pagkukulang upang mamulat tayo at maayos natin ang ating bansa sa kalagayan natin ngayon. Thank you for watching. This is Father J-Boy on the line. I'll see you next time.